everyone. Today we got to play Magnate, the first city. Now this is a real estate game, so that was fun. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell because board games are amazing, and that's what we do here at Legends of Nirvana. Now, Robert, can you tell us a little bit more about this game?
Yeah, I can do that. All right, so overall rank is 3,862. A Board Game Geek. It's rated at 7.8. Designed by James Naylor. We got some artists from, it's either Denal, maybe Hegarty, Che Lee, and James Naylor. Published by Naylor Games and MTS Games. MSRP is $89. I saw it a little bit cheaper on Miniature Market for $75.99, but that's probably just a retail version. What we're going to be talking about is the deluxe.
Yeah. All right, so let's dig into the quality of components. So you have these beautiful 3D images of the different buildings that you're able to place on the board. There is quite a few cardboard chits specifically with the, I guess, tenants. I do really think it's really cool that the first player marker is an excavator. Mm-hmm. The dice themselves are a little bit smaller, but it kind of works out because sometimes you end up with quite a few to roll. Mm-hmm. Now, I think the biggest complaint that most of us had was around the money, but I think we kind of bickered on why it's not our favorite. So the money for me, I hate the fact that they're different sizes. My OCD kicks in and just bugs the bejeebus out of me. I try to stack them and fit them nicely, but they're never fit nicely. So,
and I just don't like paper money. Now, this is a better quality of paper money than you typically see within like a Monopoly or any game like that. But it's still paper money. It's still going to bend. It's still going to wear out super fast.
Yeah, but I mean, it's fine. I mean,
my complaint is paper money and it's different sizes, so it's both of there. So.
Yeah. So so lots of things going on there.
So the cards are linen finish, really good stock. They have nice thickness on them.
You got a lot of cardboard for your for sale tokens, and then you got the boards themselves are not the greatest thickness of cardboard, but they're functional.
Now, I will say we had an issue with the bank notes because they gave you a little tray, but it's not functional at all.
Well, the storage in general is really bad. It's clear, these clear cases for everything, which they hold the things in well.
The buildings are fine.
But the weird thing is that the way they put the lids on, the lids for the buildings is okay, but then the pieces like the money and the tokens, they built one big lid that holds like all the pieces individually together underneath it. So if you try to put the lid on and then you take, if you try to put all of it in at once, it tips out and falls because the lid doesn't hold everything. It's just sitting across three different sections.
And it probably still won't store well inside.
Yeah.
It'll probably fall apart.
It's just a weird design. I don't know why they chose to go that route with it, but yeah, it took us a while to figure out even how to put it back into the box because it doesn't look natural to put one lid over three different things.
Yeah. So as far as handling the money, you almost had to have, stacks. And so that, it took up quite a bit of the board space. But this isn't a huge table hog. It does have a lot of bit of chits. It ended up eating a bit of the table. But
the boards for all the maps are all kind of bowed a little bit, which is also kind of a pain. They're not horribly bad, but
I think that it's okay with it because they're smaller.
Yeah,
unlike a big board game, if it's bowed, then
just a little bit thicker than cardstock. Yeah. Though it would be nice if these were more solid cardboard as opposed to.
And it's probably just humidity that
Yeah. Overall, talking about quality of components, so I think there are a few really cool pieces like the excavator, like the 3D buildings, but I think there are a few other things that are just kind of,
Yeah.
So I'm at like a 7.5, maybe. What are you guys thinking?
I think I'm at a 7. I really like the buildings. I think that's really nice, but the cardboard could be a little bit better, not horrible. Don't like the paper money. The storage solution, that stinks.
Yeah, I'm kind of somewhere between 6.5, 7. I think I'll go 7 too. It's the buildings or the things bowing, the paper money, and the buildings. While they are cool, the shapes of them, they're just all bright red, yellow, green, blue.
But you could paint them potentially.
Yeah,
I think it's got potential, and I really like that.
Yeah. And the towers do look like PS5s.
They do.
So,
there's that. All right, so let's move on to the theme. Now, the theme is you're kind of building a city. I feel like it should be real estate the game because
that's what it is.
So basically, though, getting a little bit into gameplay, though, there's a big, huge, I think, draw to buy, build, sell, like fairly quickly, less on the build, more of the buy and sell for this game. So it's very real estate heavy. I do think that comes across. You have a city map. You've got these buildings that you build. You're trying to sell. You're trying to buy. There has a market, and eventually inflation just topples the market over. So I do think that there's some very thematic things going on in this game. I do think it's very real estate oriented. Is the theme maybe a little dry because it's strictly real estate? Possibly. But overall, I think they did fine. What are your guys' thoughts?
I like it, and I like one of the reasons why I like it thematically is the risk deck, because you really don't have any control, which I think simulates real life. I mean, you don't know more often than not which direction the real estate market can swing. Mm-hmm. And so I think that does it, but it forces it to get worse if you're buying or selling more. So I think that simulates real life in many regards. So thematically, I like it quite a bit.
Well, I like the theme in the sense that you've got like these different land unit maps that have neighborhood names, and they have different bonuses based upon the types of buildings. It's, like the airport is beneficial to the businesses, and you've got the factory areas, which are good for factories, but not residential, and vice versa. The residential areas, you don't want, like the lake here, you don't want to have a factory on the lake. So I thought all of that was pretty cool and well done as far as the integration with the board. Not to mention that when you build a plot of land, the building has a footprint that matches the 3D building. Right. So it fits in there, and it has driveways and roads off of it, which is really cool. So I like the way they integrated all of the background art on the boards with the buildings that you're building.
I do too.
So place a score on the theme then.
I'm probably a 7 on this as well, I think. I don't think it's super heavy on theme, but it does match the real estate pretty well.
I'm a little bit higher. I like 7.5 because, to Randy's point, I do like how the boards integrate the buildings, but I do like how it simulates the market as well. So there's some tension there, and I like that.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you guys on both of that aspect. But I do think, you called out some very good points. So I'm actually going to give this a 7.5 because I do think your points are valid, and the fact that, there is a lot. And especially on the advanced side, each building have, bonuses and minuses and really, truly affecting. And I think if you look in the differences, the more advanced version, I think, will be higher in theme because those markets will be heavily driven. Yeah, there will be a lot more tension into it. So I'm kind of there at the 7.5. All right, so now let's talk about Rulebook. So before you get talking about the Rulebook, I want to really go over these cheat sheets because they are phenomenal. So there's 2 cheat sheets for each person. Yeah, they are required, but they're perfect because basically you have the player actions on one side, so it's very clear what your options are in the round. But not only that though, but it also explains the different plot value when you go to sell the building. So basically a small summary there. And then the other side, it contains how much it costs to build these buildings, right? So all of that is very, very important. Again, the other side, that one's for advanced play, so that one's not so much as important. But then the tenant, so when you attract your tenants, that's the other side.
And
all of those are
your player actions as well.
Yeah. So, that was on this side, the player actions. So all of those are very, very important, all relevant.
Well, the advanced one will be really important if you're playing with the advanced.
Right. So again, though, I am very, very happy to see such good cheat sheets because he read the rules. I didn't listen. I didn't have to. I was able to go to these and just be just fine. Sure, I missed some things, but what's the point? No, but I think they're really, really solid. So I do want to point that out before you go into heavy into rules. They did a great job
solid
with these.
Cheat sheets.
Very solid cheat sheets. So
as far as the rulebook goes, the rulebook is 20 pages in length with a partial cover, which kind of goes like the first top of it looks like a cover. Then goes into kind of the little background story about this little country that didn't allow any development, and then suddenly they get some zoning laws changed, and everybody was allowed free range.
It's kind of funny, actually, how they wrote it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. But then it tells you, oddly, don't open the rulebook yet. And the reason why is they actually created a whole deck of cards that you're supposed to step through to teach you this game. And I thought it was a neat idea, but I went ahead and read the rules anyway, because that's what I do. And I'm like, this game is not as complex as it seems like it's going to be at first glance.
Yeah, but I could see where maybe if someone buys this thinking that this might be a good game and maybe they're not used to some of the mechanics yet, maybe this could be a daunting game to someone who's not used to these
if
type
you're
of
not
games
used to
yet.
any kind of financial, I was expecting more on the financial
I was
side
too. I was
when
too.
I got it, and I was like, this is actually a light financial game.
I wouldn't call it light, but I definitely
as
call
far
it
as
medium.
financial games go, it's a light one. I wouldn't say this is probably a medium level game
Yeah.
overall. But as far as most, like if you think about most financial games are like the 18XX series or the City with Broad Shoulders or
love.
those are way heavier than this. This is nowhere near that. I was not expecting that. I don't understand. I wouldn't need that step through to get. We didn't play it. We jumped straight into.
Yeah,
the
but
rules.
if you're not as familiar,
Right.
this is your first financial game.
I could see value in doing it that way, and plus, it's a unique idea. And,
it is a neat idea.
So I like that.
But then when you actually break down the rulebook, the first part of the rulebook is the tutorial setup. So it's expecting you to use that deck of cards.
Yeah.
So if you take that out of the picture, it actually starts on the regular setup for a game on page 6. And the setup takes you 2 pages. Then it goes into your game overview and your turns. And by the time you get through the turns, then it goes straight into the scoring of the end of the game. So it's only from page 6 to page 15. So you're actually looking at 9 pages of rules for a financial game. It's not that heavy.
Right.
So it was way easier than I thought. Then it's the AI for the solo play and some frequently answered questions.
But it's got a matrix on the back sheet.
Yeah.
I mean,
the matrix is really just, we didn't use it, but it's for doing if you want to do the math.
But I could see that scaring people.
Yeah, it looks intimidating, but all it is straight up doing a multiplication table.
Yeah.
And, then you've got, actually, I like that, give you kind of a background on each of the companies that you can be in the game.
So, to be fair, it says your home, which is why I focused on homes, okay?
Yeah.
So, I was saying...
it says your It says
Okay, they forgot a few vowels, and that's okay.
Just one.
Well, they left out an O and an O. Yeah, 2 O's. Ooh.
Exactly.
They left out the Y, too, so they left out U.
Well, Y is sometimes a vowel.
It could be our home. You should assume it's your home, but it could be our home. Matter of fact, there's not space for a Y and an O. It's probably our home.
Mm-hmm.
I think it says
Feel free to, I will look away. Like...
Okay. As far as the rulebook goes, I think this rulebook is pretty good. It does the job. It does it well. There is a little bit of confusion at first about how some of the bonus pips work, because some of the dice selection is based upon adjacency of boards, and the pip count is based upon direct adjacency to a tile, but within the same neighborhood. And that was a little confusing.
Right, at first.
It does have some examples, but the examples were a little hard to tie to the real board. And that's probably why they did the stepping through, because that's really the only complex part of this game. I'm going to go ahead and give this an 8. I think it's a pretty good rule book. And the fact that they did make really awesome cheat sheets for it, and they did go through the step, maybe I'll give it a 9 actually, because they did go through the option of taking the card deck, and that's a novel approach to it. So yeah, I think I'll give it a 9.
All
right, awesome. Thank you. All right, so now let's talk about actual gameplay. So the gameplay starts out that everyone gets $2 million, okay? So fantastic, right? Wish I had that in real life, okay? Would not be playing with real estate. All right, so, but then you can buy a piece of land if you want to. So typically you'll go over here and you'll notice the land price. Now the land price in this particular instance does not start at this high, but it's at $700,000, okay? So I'm going to spend my $7,000. $700,000. I'm going to take one of my little tokens, and I'm going to have to find a for sale, okay? So there's a for sale here, and I could do that, and I could change it out. However, maybe I want to go right here. Now, this isn't for sale, but I am adjacent to it. So I'm going to say, you know what? I am going to convince those people to sell it to me, even though they don't want to sell it. So I'm actually going to double my bid, all right? I'm going to pay double the amount, and then I'm able to place here, okay? So just kind of keep that in mind, that if it's a for sale token, it was actually at the land price. But if you're going to go to adjacent to something that you already own, it is double. Okay, so that is one of the actions, is that I can purchase a land tile. Now, the next thing that I can do is build, okay? So I'm going to go to my beautiful cheat sheet over here, and there's a couple of options for the buildings that I can build. I can build either housing structure, right, for people to live, or offices so that people can work, or retail so people can buy different items, and industry so they can actually build those items. Now, beyond them just being a different kind of building, there's really kind of no difference as far as what you're building.
Other than number of tenants, and some of them give you additional bonuses. So it's, I mean, there's definitely some variety and some strategy on knowing what to buy and where to build it.
There's 2 types of those buildings, small and large.
Yeah, so they're small and large, like I said, and depending on whether it's small or large, will have different tenant capacities, which will affect your sell price when you go to sell, possibly. All right, so with that being said, now I will say that, okay, so I bought my property here. My next round, I would end up maybe building a building. So I think a small retail unit sounds fantastic. So I'm going to pay my $1.2 million. I'm going to get the object from the building. Yay! Okay, and then I'm going to flip that over, flip this, and put my little guy there, okay? So that's going to be fantastic. I'm going to have this guy ready to go to be able to put tenants at the beginning of the next round. So we'll go that here in a minute. Now, next thing we're going to do that we could possibly do on one of our actions is to do advertisement. Now, I can automatically get 2 advertisement tokens for free. Now, what these advertisements do are when you go to attract tenants, you can basically turn them in for an automatic successful die. Now, we'll go over different buildings require different successful dice, so just kind of keeping that in mind. All right, so I can take those as an option. The other thing I could do is I can hire my labor out and consult, okay? So basically, I get the land cost price basically as an income for just choosing that action. So in this particular case, I'd get $700,000, and go from there.
Now, you did leave off on the advertising. When you do take the 2 chips, you have the option of buying more chips for $500,000 each.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
But in some cases, it's worth it. It was worth it for me because on that last round, I was able to buy up to get more guaranteed tokens for $1 million, and I was able to fill my shopping.
So, hey, make your choices. Okay, then the next thing is sell. So, for example, all right, you know what? I have no more use for this building right here. I've maxed it out on tenants, and I decided I needed some cash, and consultant just doesn't bring enough money in to mama. So I decided to sell this property here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this beautiful plot value chart that is on the thing, and I'm going to determine, okay, there is 1 for the land, 1 for any type of building. Do notice that certain of the large buildings do give you a +1, so just kind of keep that in mind and pay attention to your cheat sheet. But this one only is count for 1. And then I get 1 for each +1. So I'm going to go over here, look at my things. There is 1 that gives you an upgrade value. All right, so I'm actually going to have a 3rd one for that. And then the number of residents on the plot. In this particular case, there is only 1. So I'm going to have a total of 4. Now, if there are any down arrows that affect this right next to it, just like the up arrows, you'll subtract that, but we don't have any in this case. So that's a value of 4. So I'm going to say 4 times the current land value, which is $700,000. So I will end up with $2.8 million for selling that property. So that property.
But you're foregoing any future income.
Right.
Right. So I've sold it. It is gone, and now I won't get any income.
Not only that, but you lose that property too. It's like a vacant building that no one can utilize anymore.
Yeah, but you can still. It does trigger when you go to do tenants. Now, that is another piece of the important game, which we'll go over now. So basically, you take 3 actions throughout the game. You keep going a circle, you do your 3 actions, and then end of game occurs. Now, there is some setup.
End of round.
End of round, sorry, not end of game. End of round. So there is a little bit of setup in the fact that you turn over so many for sale tiles. Those get placed, so more land becomes opening available.
You also draw additional cards to give you more stock of the types of
tenants,
yes, correct. And then once that setup phase occurs, then you're actually going to try to, well, first you bid, right? So if you want first player over everyone else's, you can put your money where your mouth is and bid. So the whoever has the escalator, which turns around, goes from one person over. You can decide. So, hey, it's at your spot. So you can decide whether you want to bid or pass. Do you want to bid, Rob?
Yes, I want to bid $1 million.
Okay, all right. Well, I decided that I'm going to pass, but Randy really wants to become first player. Yes, you do.
Okay, I'm bidding $6 billion.
No, okay.
I can't beat that. So Randy is now first player.
I can't pay it because I don't have $6 billion.
All right. So Robert bid $1 million, and Randy's going to bid 1.2 because he wants to, and I had passed. Now, because I passed, I do not get to go back in, but they can keep bidding it out until either one of them passes. And when the full table has passed, then that person gets to take first player. Congratulations,
And I really
Randy.
just bid it because I want to play with the car.
That's totally a legit reason.
It articulates. It's awesome.
Yeah. You can actually steal the buildings and destroy them from the other players.
So,
you're not supposed to do that as part of the game, but it's still fun to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Drive off with it.
All right, so, but now Randy over here is going to now draw his tenants. Now, the reason why he wanted first player is because he noticed...
the car.
Well, there's that. But he noticed that there were only 3 industry residents that, are needing a building, and he wanted to make sure he was the first one to get those. Okay?
Because once it runs out, it's done until we draw more tenants to be able to get more potentially in there.
All right, so now what he's going to do is he's got this yellow building here that he's going to attract tenants to. So he's going to look at his little cheat sheet, okay, and he realizes that to get 1 tenant in the industry, he's going to have 4 value of 4 dice, okay? So now the other thing is how many dice is he's going to get. Now he is going to look at the houses that are on adjacent tiles, and they're tenants. So it looks like he has 6 on this board, none on that one.
Well, that would have a tile on it if it was populated, but yeah.
So that one doesn't.
Potentially 1,
but yeah, that one doesn't. So he'll only have 6 dice to roll, and if he gets 4 4s, then he can add 1 tenant. Now he's got a couple of options. So grab your 6 dice. Mm-hmm. Now he definitely 4 4s. That's quite a bit of a task ahead of you.
If I had any of these advertising tokens, I could spend them. And then I would roll the dice, and
you can change any of those results.
That will guarantee me 2 of my dice are going to be 5s. If I roll,
4s instead of 6s.
Well, they counts them as 5s.
Oh, okay.
All right. So I rolled 2 5s and a 4, so I automatically had it. But also, there's benefits for adjacency of bonuses in some cases. So if I had any bonuses, it might have jumped the pit.
So, for example, if his building was over here next to the increased 1 on the yellow, he could change everything up by 1. So his 2s would be technically 3s, and his 1 would be 2s,
right?
So on and so forth.
So in this case, I would have failed my roll if I did not spend these 2 advertising. So the 2 advertising turned 2 of these automatically into 5s.
And he only needed 4.
And I only needed 4, so I guaranteed a roll. I got 1 of the different markers that I would get to add to that property, which counts as 3 population, and also has a value of $600,000. So when I get income, I will get that money.
Okay, so exactly. So as soon as you finish up all of your buildings, drawing tenants to all your buildings that have capacity, right? Because sometimes you fill them up. It's kind of the goal. Then he can decide to take money. Now, each one of these residents has a value on them. So you're going to take that value for all the residents in your building. In this case, this is $600,000, so that's not bad at all. He's going to look at his other buildings and calculate that because maybe he has this house with the resident on it and maybe some retail. So he might end up with $2.whatever million, okay? So he's going to take that income. Now at this point, it is going to go to the next player, and they're going to try to convince tenants to come to their buildings. And it will continue. Everyone gets to go around and do all the buildings that have open capacity. And that is basically it.
Then you go through a round of actions. Now, the one thing we left out is during the cleanup phase, this is where we have to evaluate whether the market and whether we're going to crash or not. So the first thing to consider is the tenants that are still in the tenant market. So you see if there's any holes, which in this case, we're missing the businesses. There are no tenants for business. So if there's no holes, or if there are holes, we have to take a risk card. So the risk deck, guess I turned it over. You draw 1 from that and keep it to the side. So in this case, it's 1. Now, if there was 2 holes, it'd be 2. And if either there's 1 or no tenants up here, it's actually 5 of these cards.
Okay, that means the end of the game.
The game is probably going to come to an end. Then you're going to look at where the land price is, whether it's in the green, yellow, orange, or red zones, and that's going to affect how many cards you get. If it's in the green like it is right now, there's no penalty cards added. Then we check the advertising spent. So there were 2 advertising tokens I spent on my turn. We're presuming no one else spent. So at 2, we're safe. We don't add any more cards. If we had only had 0 or 1, we would have added a card. If it had been higher than 4, we actually are going to increase the land price by 1. And then the final thing you check is sales. So these markers here are sold buildings. So every time you sell a building, you remove the marker and you add it to this chart. Now, these are just held for that 1 round. But as you sell, you're going to see what the last open spot is and whatever it is. In this case, when we sold all these buildings, it was the end of the game. There were 3 increases on the land price, but also we crashed. We got another risk, and we got 3 of those risk cards. We crashed the market because these risk cards have a value
of 0 to 3.
0 to 3, and this one has a -1, so it would have dragged down the price by 1. If that ever reaches
Not the price,
0,
the crash
track. If that ever reaches 0, it's game over. You know, it's on an automatic end of the game. And at that point, you're going to add up all the risk cards that you've got in the deck that you've played, and it's going to crash the market based on the value at the bottom of the cards that much. When we played, we brought the market down, I think, 10.
Yeah, something like that.
It brings it down. And
we were like at 1.7 million, and we brought it back down to 700,000.
Yeah, so if you've got buildings already sold, you don't have any effect by it. But if you've got buildings yet to sell, you just killed your market price of those buildings. And it's detrimental. So you want to make sure to buy and sell those buildings with regularity, or else you could very easily end up losing a lot of money at the end of the game.
Correct.
And money is victory points.
Yeah, money is the end of game victory point. So whoever has the most wins the game. So let's talk about some of the interesting mechanics. Now, I know you guys really liked this market system.
Yes, really did.
And I think there's a lot of value because there's a lot of integral on how things go up or go down, which brings a lot of variability to the game. A little bit of, because it's not luck, right? Because it's a formula, but it feels a little bit like
there's
luck.
some luck with the risk cards,
Yeah,
so
that's true. That's true.
So there is some luck, but I think that simulates real life. Though.
Well, there's risk from that, or luck from that, and there's also luck from the tenant cards,
right? Because
you're drawing 3, you could get no tenants in the color
for the buildings that you need.
Yeah, so. Exactly. So there is a little bit of that, and I think there's a lot of strategy of seeing what tenants are available, what you need to fill up, and just kind of gauging from that.
And also, where you build. And it makes a huge difference because I would have done better if I had had all these bonuses Caleb had where I built. I didn't have that. So when he sold, he made a whole lot more money than I did.
Yeah. Well, there was a round that was really what caused me to win the game was the big play where Caleb, you, and I were all planning on building what I call the PS5 building. They look like PlayStation 5s. But the blue businesses, there's 3 big giant blue businesses, and we all had the same idea. We're going to build one this round. But there were only 3 blue tenants that in the market. And at that point, Caleb got to go first.
I got to go first.
Oh, you got to go first.
Because I won the bid.
Okay. Well, okay.
No, talking about buying it. So buying it.
Caleb had it already. Caleb built his. Then I was planning to build, but you built yours next. And I'm like, well, there's only 3 tenants left.
And each one can hold it up to 3. So that's why I bid first, because I wanted to make sure I got my chunk of it. And I failed miserably. Yeah. I was only able to get 1.
But I saw that was going to be a problem, but there was a ton of retail over here.
Yeah.
So I went and built the biggest retail area right there, and it gets the perks for being next to the businesses, and also there was no competition for it. So not only did I get a chance to get a lot of tenants on my turn, but whenever the bidding round came to try to take turn order, I knew there was going to be a fight between you guys for it. I didn't have to have a stake in that, so I didn't have to spend any money. So I kind of got a win-win on that whole thing by just bowing out and buying the alternate building.
Yeah. So I think there is quite a bit of strategy. Now, Now, I do think the advanced has a lot more strategy because each of the residents are a little bit different, and therefore hold different values and different things. So I think that will make it interesting because you'll actually be a bit of a competing for the different tenants in this section as well. So not only, oh yeah, I see there's a lot of red, but there's a lot of good red, or there's kind of the red I'm looking for. So I think that is actually really interesting and fascinating and fantastic. I also, you know, I will say I like to build, and this game is not for builders, it's for flippers. I was very, very last place because I was like, oh, look, I'm building things. No, Miranda, you should sell things.
I true, but you risked it and it didn't work out for you this particular time, but it could have worked out in your favor, because if it would have worked out in her favor, Randy and I would have been screwed.
Yeah, if the market had not crashed.
If it had not crashed like we thought it was going to, then we would have been up a bad creek.
Well, see, I wouldn't have risked it if I had been close, but because I was not close to you guys at all, I was like, fine, I'm not going to sell my buildings. I might get super lucky. We might get 3 zeros or 1 1 0. And I know if that happened, that you guys would be screwed and there would be a chance for me. So I opted, even though I saw that it was close and that it was probably going to happen, I was crossing my fingers hoping we would get another round because that was the only way I was going to win. I don't think I realized how important that flipping is until actually not until we started talking about kind of the end of the game and trying to figure out, okay, why did I do so poorly? And it's just because I'm a builder. I like to build the things and keep the things. No, that is not what the goal is for this game. It is a real estate game. It's about buying and selling and doing that. And I think that's very important
to remember. And the timing of it.
Yeah, I think it's very important to remember strategy-wise that that's what this game is about. So overall, what did I think about the game? What am I going to end up scoring it? I do think it is a very heavy real estate game. I think it's got some very interesting mechanics with the crashing mechanism. My builder self wish it was a little bit longer. But at the same time, I don't think that that's what this game's about. So I think once you keep in mind that it is a real estate game, not a building game. Miranda is talking to herself on this one.
Oh, you're talking to the people out
there.
I'm
talking to them, but kind of talking to myself at the same time. I'm actually probably going to rate this a 7.5. Because that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Whereas, I don't think this is a heavy real estate game. I think it's a very light real estate game.
Well, no, I meant heavy in the fact that it is a real estate.
It's definitely a real estate game.
Yes.
And I personally generally don't like real estate games. If this had been a long real estate game, I probably would not have liked it nearly as much as I do. I like the fact that it is as short as it was. When I first got this, I was like, I don't know about this one, because it looked heavy. And then I got it out, and it's like, this is not heavy at all. This is not what I expected. And I like the fact that the game can end at any point. You never know when it's going to crash. Now, it's probably unlikely to happen in the first few turns.
But it potentially could.
I mean, it's very unlikely. You have to get a lot of 3s all at the top of your deck there. But in general, it's probably going to last at least a couple rounds around the table.
Yeah.
But you never know. And I like that. I like the fact that you've got that suspense. And you kind of, basically, you have to play a strategy. I'm going to build up a little bit. I can't sell everything because you won't have any income. I have to have a little bit of stuff. You have to have something to build that you're going to add tenants to, or else you're probably going to get hosed too. Right. So you have to have that balance. And then once you've maxed out, there's no reason to hold on to that real estate, really, as long as you've got further growth that you're developing. Get rid of the old stuff and keep going doing that. But you got to balance it because you only get 3 actions. And you got to use one of them to potentially build your land up. And then you got to get another one to build a building on it to get tenants. And you got another one, you got to sell one of your properties. So if you keep doing those 3 actions over and over, but then you're also going to run out of these advertising tokens if along the way. So you'll have to get advertising tokens. And then you're going to run out of money too. So you can do the consulting to make a little cash, but you're going to have these constraints all through, and you've got to kind of time it all. So I think there's a lot of strategy on those actions. There's not a lot of actions to choose from, but the combined actions are really where the strategy lies. And I like that. I'm probably going to give this one an 8.5, I think.
Okay.
I think I'm at an 8. I think it's a solid game. I think that after multiple playthroughs, though, I think it might become a little formulaic. I think that the randomness is good, but I think you can figure out a cycle, like when to buy, when to sell, when to buy, when to sell. So I think that I don't think this would be a game that would last forever, unlike like some of the games that I like more, like Power Grid or something like that, that doesn't have that, I think, that limitation to it. But it's a solid game, and I think I really, really enjoy it. I liked it so much I went and bought it. So I liked it a lot. So I think I'm comfortable with an 8.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had a blast sharing this with you guys today. Hopefully you'll come hang out with us again. We'll catch you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.